students who would tell the truth would tell you they smoke. So why are we destroying the black family with these antiquated drug laws? Crime is a problem. Education. We all know, all you have to do is read. African American students underperform. We don't score as well on exams as we should. And because of that, we can't get into some of the better colleges. If we can get into college. HISD, which is 95% black and brown, is one of our biggest enemies. When somebody sees me, either one of the board members or one of the leadership people at HISD, they say, Dr. Douglas, we know what you want to say. You want to complain about us not letting kids take books home. My position is, how are they supposed to become independent learners if at some point in their career they're not required to sit down with a book and read? Now the problem is, they told me that it costs money because students now don't always turn the books in. My response has always been, because I've run some of the numbers, Dr. Reagan, we spend more money on trying to correct the academic problems that we created than we would spend if we let them take the books home and learn in the first place. As far as education is concerned, you know, there was an article in the paper on Thursday, and it talked about the fact, now the article was in Friday's paper, but it was Thursday morning, that a lot of kids who had to ride the bus across town to school were left standing in the cold because of the conflict between HISD administration and the bus drivers. My question has always been, why does a student have to leave his or her neighborhood to get a good education? And second, why are all the quality education programs in the white community, especially when we don't have white kids in HISD?
Whoa!
I'm going to just run through some of the others because we're running out of time. Health, we're going to be involved in health. Veterans Affairs, believe it or not, we know that a higher proportion of African Americans serve in the military than we are in the population. And we know the problems that we have, especially with Veterans Administration and what's happening to African Americans when they return from war. If you think it's bad for white soldiers, you should be an African American soldier. We've got labor problems, environmental and climate, justice, our youth, and we have a program called ACSO, Academic, Cultural, Technology, Science Olympics. I'm going to be finished in a minute, but you know, I'm a faculty member and have been a faculty member most of my professional career. And I want to use this as a teaching moment also. I used to live on the East Coast, and I worked in universities that were heavily Jewish. And one of the things I discovered about Jewish people is they never let anybody else take responsibility for the education of their kids. But most important, they never let anybody else take responsibility for teaching their kids their history. And I say that because in 1975, I wrote a piece, and in that piece, I predicted that the civil rights movement was over and that we had started to head back toward post-Reconstruction.
Amen.
Everybody told me I was crazy. But those of you who know anything about Reconstruction know something about the ability of African Americans to serve in various political positions, the ability of African Americans to be involved. Now, if you look at the history books, they say Reconstruction was from 1865 to 1877. 1877 is basically when they withdrew the Union troops from the South and basically said to the Southern whites, you do what you want to do. But I actually trace Reconstruction from 1865 to 1896. In 1896 was the famous decision of Plessy v. Ferguson. Plessy v. Ferguson. Now, nobody thought that Plessy v. Ferguson's decision would have a ramification that it had for the next 58 years. Plessy v. Ferguson was a mulatto. In fact, according to court records, he was 7/8 white and 1/8 black. And Louisiana had enacted a statute that required black people to ride on a special car. When Plessy sat in the white car, like Rosa Parks, he got arrested. Unfortunately, there was no NAACP in 1896. And so the Supreme Court goes all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says it is legal for the states to practice racial segregation. We need to teach our kids about Reconstruction. And the important reason for teaching Reconstruction is the old saying, if you don't know your history, you're subject to return to the past. I surmise that we've already returned to the past. It is 31 years from 1865 to 1896. Even though we had Brown, most of us trace the real movement of African Americans to the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Now, in 1975, I predicted we were going in the opposite direction because the Supreme Court agreed to hear a case from California in which an applicant to the University of California Davis Medical School sued on race discrimination, reverse discrimination because he didn't get accepted. But the real turn came in 1996 with Hopwood. That was a case that said in higher education you can't use race to make admissions decisions. Believe it or not, From 1964 Civil Rights Act to the 1996 Hotwood decision is 32 years. Are we headed back toward post-Reconstruction? I surmise that we are. I'm going to close with this. You know, a few years ago, when we elected an African-American president, there were a lot of people say, oh, this proves discrimination is dead. In fact, I spoke at a high school, straight Jesuit, on that very same issue. Now that Barack Obama is president, do we need affirmative action? My conclusion was, and this is where we made a mistake as a people. You go to the doctor, you got some bacterial infection. The doctor will give you a prescription for antibiotics. You read the prescription says, look, in 4 or 5 days, the symptom will appear to have disappeared, but it's still in the body. You have to take this antibiotic until they're all gone. All right? We stopped taking the antibiotic because we thought the disease was gone. All right? So now, we have to be more fervent in what we do. We have to be more involved. I remind people every day, the NAACP is not in this alone. We're going to work with other organizations. In the past, we give a lot of credit to Dr. King. Dr. King was not a member then. I'm going to say he wasn't a member. He was not acting on part of the NAACP. And it's kind of hard to explain to people sometimes that there are different actions and different tasks for different segments of society. Sometimes people say to me, well, you know, young kids say the NAACP not doing anything. I said, that's all right. I said the same thing, Reverend Lawson, when I was in college. NAACP is not doing anything. Not taking into consideration, Reverend Lawson, that when young activists got arrested, somebody had to pay the bond because we definitely were in school and didn't have any money. And somebody had to pay the lawyers to do so. So we have to understand, if you look around the world today, activism generally comes from the young. China, Egypt, look around the world, activism comes from the young. There's a reason why. As I grew older, I came to understand it. I got up every morning, got out of my dorm bed, and went to class. If I got arrested, the most I could lose was a couple of days in class. Not realizing that if I was older, with a family, and I got arrested, what I stood to lose was my job and the financial support for my family. So we have to decide, we have to realize that all of us have a role to play. And we're more effective if we work together. You know, I tried to play a little football in high school. And fortunately for me, I was a quarterback. And the head coach had been an All-American quarterback. So he protected us. At practice, we didn't have to do what the lineman had to do. In fact, the other coaches would say, You treat them like sissies. But an effective football team is effective because they understand the center has a job, the guards have a job, the tackles have a job, the ends have a job, the running back has a job, the quarterback has a job, but they're only effective when all of those people work together toward the same goal. And so one of the things I intend to do is to make sure that we're involved with other people in the movement who have the same goals that we have. Now, one of the things that I am going to promise you is that at the NAACP, we're going to do our job.
Yes.
All right? Because as I said earlier, what faith without works is dead. Our job performance, however, will be much greater with your help and support. If you're not a member of the NAACP, join today. It's real simple. Go to www.naacphouston.org and you can join when you get home tonight. With that, thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve. I will not let you down.